What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Contesting the Point. I hope everyone is staying healthy and positive as they venture through the great indoors. I'm your host, Malik Forté, and this week we've got Chance and Momo back on the scene. What's up, guys? Are you both here to get your revenge on me for robbing you of winning your last times on the show?
Yes, absolutely. It was daylight robbery. You took that away from me. Benson said all the wrong things. I said all the right things, and you took it away from me. I'm ready for revenge, but I've got Chance here, so, fingers crossed. I mean, Chance is a smart guy, but, I'm hoping there's no funny business going on under the table, of course.
Oh, God. I would say, though, Malik, I'm a much more forgiving man. I'm not mad. I hold no grudges. I just think, hopefully, the more time you spend around Call of Duty, it should just be understood. If I'm arguing against Nameless, just expect that whatever I'm arguing is correct, like 98% of the time. It's just how it works over in this esport.
Okay, man. Okay, I'm learning. Let's take a look at the rules for you guys. Since Chance, it's been a while since you've been on the show. Here's a quick recap. I'm going to present a headline from the CDL. I'm going to give a hot take on the story. One of the guests will defend the hot take while the other attacks it. I'll award points for convincing arguments, and after 3 stories, whoever has the most points wins 60 seconds to pop off in the Astro Listen Up moment. That sound good, you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and hop into our first topic, which is the Chicago Home Series, which is coming up this weekend. Now, this will be the first event where we'll see the Chicago Huntsmen, the Dallas Empire, and the Atlanta FaZe all at the same event, which is huge. Now, in Group A, we have Atlanta, London, Chicago, and New York. And in Group B, we have Seattle, Dallas, and both of the LA teams. I think we can all agree that Chicago and Atlanta will probably make it out of Group A. And Dallas right now is the clear favorite to make it out of Group B, but who will the second team be? My hot take is that Seattle is going to start to turn their season around and make it out of the group stage in Chicago. Chance, do you have anything to say to disprove that?
I disagree. The disapproval will come, once we actually start playing Call of Duty. I think Optic is going to be that number 2 team coming out of this group because their storyline in my mind, very similar to Seattle's, right? You have a very shaky start to the year. You have something where you just need to identify what we get better at for Optic, pretty much everything. And then for Seattle, it's really just that S&D that they've needed to narrow down on since even before they made the roster change. I look at Seattle and all that I've seen from them, no improvements. All of their series are going just about the exact same way. They're doing very well in the respawns. The S&D still a struggle, still a bunch of Game 5 losses. And yes, they get an extra 2 weeks where they can get laser focused in on that. But then I turned my attention over to Optic, and that was a team, again, who was down on the dirt, not looking good. And then the last thing we really saw from those guys at the last LA Home Series event, they come out and get a 3-0 over the Minnesota Rocker. A 3-0 over those guys who are being talked about as one of the best teams in the game, that we're saying we'll expect them to win a tournament at some point. That's who Optic 3-0'd and just breezed past before, yes, eventually they did fall, but they struggled at the start of the year. They made clear-cut improvements, and now they've had an extra, 4, 5, 6 weeks to get even better. I look at Seattle. I don't see any improvements. I look at that Optic team. I see a ton, and that is an Optic team that when we saw them at the start of the year, we were terrified of, expecting those guys to win tournaments because of how good they were. They've gotten a lot better. They've had a lot more time to even expand upon that. That is a scary threat of a team, and that's who I'm picking to come out over Seattle in the group.
Okay, I like it. Seattle, they've been looking a little bit better, but man, thinking about the S&D, it has been terrible. Even with them playing their opponents really close and making it to map 5, that S&D has been horrible. Although I will say I'm not quite ready to give the LA Optic that much credit. Yeah, I think that home series was a little bit of a fluke from the LA side. But I don't know. What do you think, Momo? Tell me why Seattle is going to turn their season around this weekend.
Okay, well, I think Seattle are in a really good position. I think first things first, Seattle, they've been losing a lot of Game 5s. Yes, they've been losing the Search and Destroy. Yes, they need to make up for that. And I completely understand that. Apathy, just had a child, didn't have the best practice kind of coming into this. But I think Seattle have a really good run. Like, all the stars are almost aligning for them. They've got the LA Gorillas the first game. I think this is something that they can really kind of show off in. I think they can come out with a big victory here and give them the confidence. Actually, I think they may win the Search and Destroy. But going forward again, I just think this is the building blocks. I think this is something Seattle can really kind of flourish in. They've got a good side. If they start strong, they go up against Dallas in potentially the second game. Who knows if it's Optic LA there and then. But I really think that, Seattle have what it takes to kind of upset a lot of people. I think the likes of Karma, the likes of Octane, Panda, of course, getting better and better. This team has slayed better since him joining the roster. I think their respawns will be great, but for me, it's their Search and Destroy. I hope in the last 2 weeks, and I think in the last 2 weeks, they will have focused on that, laser-like focus, and they'll have improved on that heavily. But, you know, apart from that, I do see why people are down in Seattle. The reason that they've struggled time and time again is their Search and Destroy. For me, if they can fix that Search and Destroy, they can become a great, great team. And honestly, I think that's what they're going to do this weekend. I think their S&D will improve. I think the likes of Apathy, back on form, he'll be ready to go.
All right, so you're going basically off of the roadmap of the tournament, them facing off against the Gorillas in that first round. Might be a free match for them to win and get some confidence and get some momentum moving forward in the tournament. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Chance. What do you have to say about that? I mean, LA's path is a little bit more difficult with them facing off against Dallas first. Do you think that that could hurt them?
This is an age-old argument in Call of Duty. Like your first-round matchup, do you want to play one of the best teams in the world, or do you want to get a tune-up match, so to speak? Neither of these teams are easy to play against, but I think Optic's a team that will be very happy to take Dallas first, get their feet in the water, and know exactly what they're going to be dealing with online. So even if they falter off the rip, I have to imagine that'll give them confidence going on, because they'll, again, have that expectation of getting into that tournament mindset when they're playing from home. So I don't think the first round match hurts them at all. I think the main point for me is even if we see a Seattle Surge laser focused on S&D that has shown 2 weeks worth of improvement in that game mode alone, I've seen Optic make improvements again, like 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, whatever it has been. I've just seen more evidence that gives me a lot more confidence in this Optic roster.
All right. Momo, anything you want to add to defend that?
I think those are really good points. I think Optic are a team that are getting better and better. By all means, I think this is the weekend that it really could be done. But with Seattle, I just have a feeling that the talent on that roster, what they can come of, I think that it's a great kind of storyline. Optic and Seattle, very two similar positions. I think people are certainly leaning one way or the other. I'm kind of edging towards Seattle, and the only reason is because I've seen what the likes of Octane can do. I've seen the likes of Karma and how he can kind of change a series. I just think there's too much talent on that roster for them not to succeed, and I think they will start to win Search and Destroys. They will start to pick up, series wins, whatever it may be. But I've got a lot of faith in Seattle, and maybe that'll come back to bite me, but I think Seattle want to watch.
That S&D, man, it's rough. And Chance bringing that up kind of reminded me of how bad it looked last week or, at the last home series event. So I don't know if I can give it to them yet. That being said, Chance, you get this round 5-4 over Momo for the points that you made. I do not want to give all of my faith to the LA Optic. I don't want to sound like I'm co-signing them or vouching for them. But at least right now, on paper, it looks like that they're set to get out of the group stages over Seattle. So I'm going to go ahead and give this round a chance. 5-4 over Momo. Okay, so now that we've talked about who's making it into the finals bracket, let's figure out who's going to win it all. In my mind, the only real picks are FaZe, Huntsmen, and the Empire to make it out of this whole thing. I know we all want to see Huntsmen versus FaZe in the finals because we were denied that like back in Atlanta. But I have a feeling that it's not going to happen. My hot take is that Chicago's not going to even make the finals at all at their own home series event.
You are crazy. You're absolutely crazy. If you think Chicago are not making their finals, you are absolutely out of your mind. The only team that has beaten them is the Mutineers. The Mutineers are not here. Are they the bogey team? I don't know. I don't care. But I think that a lot of this has been down to their roles. I want to focus on these roles because RST's formal, they've been changing roles, going back and forward, and I actually think they've taken now one step back, but maybe 2 steps forwards in going back to main assault rifle being formal, and RST's been that nuisance of a SMG on the map. And I know this because we filmed the trip car with myself, Benson, and Miles, and he was kind of talking about this. I think he feels a lot more comfortable. He was the first to say that we were running around the map, we didn't know what we were doing, and apparently according to him, they're jumping into games with their coaches, their managers, and the whole of the staff, for goodness sake, and going through things for the first time. And I think for me, it's something that I really want to see them get to the finals. Maybe that's a little bit of bias, but apart from that, I've seen them scrim online. They're one of the first teams, the only teams at the moment that are scrimming online. They're showcasing themselves, and we're seeing consistent improvements from them. I know I've been watching them. Have you? That's the question, because if you think Chicago aren't making the final, whether it be against FaZe, whether it be against Dallas, whoever it may be, Chicago at their home series, they've got to make the final. Semi-finals for them, it's great. It's a top 4 for most teams. It is not good enough for the Huntsmen. These need to be in grand finals time and time again, and they need to be winning those finals.
That's a juicy hot take right there. It's saying that they're going to win it all. It's crazy. What do you have to say about that, Chance? Because
I mean, the whole thing is they're making the final, not winning the whole thing. I'm going for Chicago. They make the final.
All right. What do you think, Chance?
Obviously, the Huntsmen are not going to make the final. The past 2 tournaments we have seen from them, they have faltered both times. One, maybe you want to say because of the roster or the role swap, whatever, but still, 2 tournaments in a row. They've gotten upset by the Florida Mutineers right like in that semifinals match. And now look at the run Chicago going to have to make. That is no easy cakewalk they have in their group. One, they're going to have to either get past or be right next to the FaZe. Not an easy task. And then you have to deal with the Royal Ravens, who are a very strong team of threat, and in New York, who with their roster change might have gotten a lot better as well. So bunch of teams in the group that will be a very strong threat to the Huntsmen. Don't get me wrong. I expect them to make it out, but it's still not an easy road at all, especially with the format switch, because we know some of these kids shake a little bit more when they're on land, sitting across the stage from scump and formal. Now they do it from the comfort of their own homes. It's more of that environment you get used to when you scrim online. So a little bit of potential there. And then, of course, on the flip side of the bracket, to make it to the finals, the Huntsmen are going to have to take down either more than likely Optic LA or the Dallas Empire, depending on how the bracket works out. And again, the Dallas Empire, yes, they have not beaten the Huntsmen on land just yet, but online is a different beast, and that Optic team might also be terrifying for them to go against, because as I was saying earlier, I think that's a team that has made a ton of improvement. So I look at the strength of schedule right now for the Huntsmen on their path to making it to the finals, and I think that's the strongest strength of schedule we've had so far this entire year for any given team. So I think there's too many opportunities for a team to pull off that upset and take them down before they get to the finals.
You really think the Subliners have a shot against?
Realistically, yes. I mean, so just to, deflate the thing, to break the fourth wall, whatever, still Huntsmen, 90% chance they take down the Subliners, but I do expect New York to be a team that's made quite a bit of improvement. And again, specifically because of the format being online, that turns a lot of the pages in my mind for an automatic Huntsman win. If it was on land, where all those guys on Chicago are just complete lanimals, that's when they're at their best. I think that gives a bunch of other teams a 5-10% bump to kind of close in on them just a little bit.
Okay. Momo, anything you want to add to your points?
I think the online and the LAN point is a very good point, but I think these guys that made semi-final after semi-final with ease, yes, they've lost to the Mutineers, and it's been frustration both online and online. The Mutineers aren't here. I think they will handedly get through their group. I think they will progress to the final, and I think, again, I'll back up what I said before and double down. I think this is the weekend of Chicago, of Huntsmen, and a weekend to celebrate these guys. A lot of you guys out there are wanted to see it. I want to see Chicago do well, of course I do, but we're seeing different winner after different winner. Maybe I'm wrong this time around, but I firmly believe Chicago, they'll be in that final, and they'll be putting on a showcase for us. I think we get Formal back on his best on assault rifle, and we see us RSTs trying to be that nuisance, that thorn in the side of these teams, but they're going to be tested. They are going to be tested by the likes of London, FaZe, Dallas, whoever it may be, even the Seattle Surge. But I think these guys can do it.
Interesting. One of the signs of a championship caliber team is being able to make adjustments week in and week out, so your team can be victorious. And if we are to consider the Huntsmen as a championship caliber team, one of the best, we have to assume that they've made the proper adjustments after losing to come back and get a victory this weekend. So, Chance, I want to throw it to you one more time to, kind of back up your previous points. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards Chicago possibly making it happen. What do you think, man? Get me back on the train of them failing their fan base at their own home series.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to dig myself into too deep of a grave. Chicago, obviously, fantastic team, top 2 team in the game, but I think what a very realistic situation from them. They come out, win their first series against the Subliners, then they go against FaZe in the next round. Let's say FaZe just thrashes them, because online FaZe is it doesn't matter where. FaZe is a horrifying team to have to play against. So Huntsmen fall there. Now their third series loss, not just against the Florida Mutineers, but then they have to face tough competition situation, whether it be the Subliners once again that they have to battle, or if the Ravens come out of the losers bracket, whatever situation it's going to be, not an easy win to bounce back from. It's difficult to bounce back when you're playing online. They have the benefit of playing at the Hex quarters, at least the 4 of them that are there, but it's still not an easy vibe to get right back into the same way it is in that tournament environment. And then even if they make it over that next hurdle, then again, it's an Optic LA or a Dallas Empire who are going to be geared up and ready to go and hungry, who I assure you have also been sitting with their coaches and going in and playing Search and Destroy and making sure they look at all the kinks as well, because that is a ton of champions on the flip side of the bracket as well that the Huntsmen are going to have to face. It is just an incredibly difficult schedule that the Chicago Huntsmen have for this tournament, and that's exactly why they're going to falter before they make the finals.
All right. You guys both made a lot of good points, both a lot of valid points. It's hard to pick one of you guys to win this round, but I'm going to give this to Momo. You get this round 7-6 over Chance, which brings our total to 11-11. We're all knotted up. For our last story, we've seen a bunch of roster changes in the last few weeks, the biggest obviously being Florida swapping Pharaoh in for Pristini, which netted them a win in Dallas. But what about the teams that haven't been so successful? We saw New York make some changes just recently. After bringing Happy in to replace Zero, they've actually brought Mack in to replace Happy. So right now, my hot take for this last topic is that Mack is going to turn things around for the Subliners. Momo, what do you have to say about that, man? Are you not quite on the Mack train yet?
The Mack hype is certainly something that I'm watching out for. Mack Meltz, he's a great player. I've seen him online from other people's streams and other people's point of views. He's been a great addition to New York, and I think it's what they needed. But the difference is a lot of people comparing them to the likes of Mutineers, you know, where you're going from dropping Pristini or Pristini benching himself as a world champion, and they were already making semifinals. Right now, New York are not making semifinals, and they're swapping out Happy for, you know, Mack Meltz. It's not, I don't see that. I know it's a 1-for-1 on both sides. I don't see them making a big enough change to turn around New York's season right now. May they win? May they improve on a couple of maps? Absolutely. I think that, yes, by all means, they needed to do like a LA Gorillas. I actually think they needed a bit more of a roster swap. I think that 1-for-1 isn't enough. Zero sat on the bench. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think that's more of a in-game chemistry thing. But you've got the likes of Center on the bench. You've got other players biting, chewing just to get onto a team. I think that we could have seen New York make a bigger one. But this is their I want to say first, but it's their second real change, and whether it'll be enough, I'm not sure. I don't think it's enough to change this season around for them, but they've played in the last 3 events with 1 series win. I don't think changing 1 player is going to be enough. Plus, the group that they have, London, Chicago, and Atlanta, that is just one of the hardest groups you could get. I mean, you could get a little harder if you change London out for Dallas, but apart from that, you got Chicago and Atlanta. How are you going to prove yourself in this week? If we're looking at the bigger picture, we might see Mack improve New York for sure a little later down the line. This is not going to be the week to do it, though. For me, I really feel strongly that, you know, these guys could go another 0-2, and it's hard because I want Mack Meltz to come in, make a big name for himself and really kind of prove himself. But to go back to your hot take, is Mack going to turn around New York's, you know, season? I don't think so right now. I think maybe in a couple of months' time, but not at the Chicago Home Series weekend.
Okay, all right. So you're not quite sold. Haven't seen enough on the New York Subliners to quite give them that much credit. But what about you, Chance? You got the tough task of defending the New York Subliners here and Mack Meltz. What do you think?
I don't think it's a tough task to defend that take at all. I also think it's very weird to say that that's a team that needed to make, 2 or 3 people to have like the full-on roster swap, because I don't know who you really look at to drop, because you got a world champ on this team. You have some great players, a ton of tournament wins on the Subliners, and I think the Florida comparison is the best one you can make, because when you look on paper, the trade didn't make much sense, right? Pristini, speed demon, world champion. Farrell, a lot slower for the team. Wasn't expecting that to be the right calibration. Boom, they win a championship, and one of the biggest turnarounds is just the vibe of the team. It was just feeling better for them to play with Farrell. And now you look at New York, who dropped Zero because of communicate. The vibe wasn't there. They weren't feeling great with Zero, because we know Zero is not a bad player. Zero is one of the best European players of all time. So I will not say that Mack Meltz outright is better player than Zero. That's an absurd statement. But if he helps fix the vibe of the team, It doesn't have to be an on-paper switch that makes perfect sense right away. It's going to help the vibe. It's going to give them a lot more speed on the map and just try to reinvigorate that team to get back to the grind, because everything I've heard from the little whispers around the league from coaches is that he has genuinely made this team quite a bit better. The biggest question is whether or not that's actually going to translate to when you get to that tournament setting. So I think, yes, that is going to help turn the team around. Whether or not they make it out of groups, whether or not they even win a series, as long as they are hyper competitive and play toe-to-toe with the best teams in the world, I think Mack Meltz will have said, job done, and they can move on to the future where he will help turn the team around.
All right. You got me a little bit more convinced about Mack Meltz being a solid player and a difference maker out here for the Subliners. Momo, anything you want to add or to counter with?
I think the big question is, will Mack turn it around for New York? That was the hot take, right? I think if we're talking soon, no. I'm standing by it. Do I think Mack is a great player? Yes. Do I think he's going to maybe improve New York? Yes. Do I think that he's a great addition to the CDL Pro League? Yes. But is he going to turn New York around? I don't see turning it around. I see them maybe picking up a map here or there, maybe a series. I think they needed a bigger change or something bigger of an influence to their roster than just adding Mack Meltz. I think it's a great step, and I hope they take many more steps. And I really do wish New York do step it up. You know, Zuma and Attach, I'm personally very big fans of. I've been watching these guys for, going on 7-8 years now, and I want them to do better. It's hard to see players and friends like that struggling. But I hope this is a step in the right direction. I don't think it's something that's going to catapult them into the top 4. I don't think it's going to be a replication of the Mutineers' success. So right now, I've got to stick with what I think. I think my hot take is Mack is not going to turn it around for New York. I think, maybe they'll change playstyles, get a little bit better, but that's about it from me.
All right. Chance, anything you want to counter with to end this topic? I will say the Florida-New York comparison, I really don't buy that one as much because I feel like Florida, they were still making finals before they dropped Pristini or swapped Pristini out for Farrell, rather. I feel like that was just kind of the piece that put them over the top, whereas the Subliners, they've been pretty lackluster since the top of the season, and so they're just looking for anything. But I want to give you one more chance to kind of counter your point there.
I mean, it's a fair point as well, but again, that's why my highlight is rather than a player being a one-for-one trade, it's about the vibe of the team because, it's not a frustrating situation for Mack to be in to come and have to play against these top teams. That's the dream. That's what all these Call of Duty players live for. And when you look at all of his teammates, some incredibly veteran players, Attach has been around forever, Zuma's been around forever. Again, you have a world champ and a bunch of other champions on this team, and then Temp is the non-chip guy on the team outside of the new man on the roster. And Temp, when he's at his best, he's cracked into that top 5 player discussion. Certainly not this year, but in the past, he has hit peaks like that. So you have a bunch of champions on this team, including a world champ. Those are the perfect guys to kind of build around a new player on this come up. You have Revan and JP as your coach and analyst to help him out as well. You have all the pieces to get Mack nice and prepared for where he needs to be. And if the argument is New York Subliners, you don't think their ceiling is as high as the FaZe, the Huntsmen, whatever it's going to be. Again, this is Zuma and Attach, the old duo back together, who when they were at their peak, anytime they went against the Optic back in IW, whatever it was, when Optic was that best team, FaZe was always the team that took him down. Attach, even in World War II, was one of those players when he was playing with FaZe that took that best team in the game down. They've been doing this for a long time in their careers. This is a lineup that is very prepared to play against the best competition in the world. They just had a mental block. There was a mental block for them previously, and the entire point of them making a roster change is not them saying, we think Mack is a better player than Zero, because again, that would be a ridiculous statement at this point in his Call of Duty career. It's purely saying, we don't think at this point we can win. We need to make a change. Who's one of the best players we can pluck out of the amateur scene and try to make something happen with? That just happened to be Mack Meltz. So that's what they want, to turn the vibe of the team around, to get past that mental block, and just making any sort of switch is refreshing, and I think that can help give them the edge they need.
All right. And I will definitely co-sign with you. The amount of talent that the Subliners have, a couple of my favorites in overtime in Call of Duty playing on that team in Attach and Zuma. And something else that you both have said that really stands out in my mind is that this change, it might not help things right away, but over time, maybe a month or two, we should start seeing some improvements. And when you're starting at the bottom, there's only one direction you can really move in. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give this round and the game to Chance. Chance, you defended the Subliners pretty adequately there, I think. So that round, I'm giving you 5 points to Momo's 4, which puts our total at 16 15. Chance, you are the winner of our Astro Listen Up moment here on Contesting the Point, man. You got 60 seconds to pop off.
Seattle Search, how you guys doing? Search and destroy, it's been a problem for you guys the entire year. We've harped on that. We've talked about it so much that it's seeped into other matches, and you guys hate that. I think the language used was something to the effect of, we had 2 game 5s when half of these had a kid, you can kiss my ass. Fair point. It is incredibly difficult to get good practice in before an event when someone on your team is having a kid. And again, massive congratulations to Apathy. That is an achievement, especially in this crazy time. I'm sure that is a crazy amount of stress you had to deal with. But now you're back home and free. You had an extra 2 weeks to get better at Search and Destroy. So I will happily give a pass to that past event for you guys. Difficult situation to deal with, but looking in the future, that is the one thing, Search and Destroy, where I am going to be very happy to roast as much as possible if there is not a turnaround. So if you guys start winning those game 5s, then, well, one, great news. Now you're at the top of the game. You'll just start working your way through the CDL points, and then I won't have to roast you guys because, oh my God, I will take the gloves off now if we see the exact same stuff.
All right, everybody, that does it for Contesting the Point. Thanks once again to Momo and Chance for joining us on the show this week. And guys, CDL action back this weekend. Tune in to the Chicago Home Series this Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you there. But until then, peace out.